Not much going on, just because, I mean, this is kind of a quiet period anyway. Nobody played around the league. The first round playoff matchups don't start until this upcoming weekend. On Sunday is when Houston and Kansas City play to find out who our Reign will be facing in the semifinal at Lumen Field on October 23rd, which the entirety of the lower bowl at Lumen Field has been opened up. Tickets are going pretty quick. I know that we talked about it a few weeks ago with ticket giveaways, and that was kind of tough. Giveaways, I'm not the best at doing giveaways, so we'll figure that out and be better about that. And I'll give you a more concrete talk on getting those tickets set up maybe after we find out who the Reign are playing. But speaking of tickets and attendance, the only thing I have for you to look at is the Reign attendance numbers from this past year, having gone from Lumen Field over to Cheney here, year one, and really trying to build that knowledge of the Reign here in the city of Seattle. So in terms of attendance news, the average attendance this past season was 6,185, which saw increases as the year went on. The Reign set more standalone records. It seemed like every last few game as the rest of the regular season finished out. That's an increase of 13.84% from last year at Cheney. Last year's attendance at Cheney was 5,433 on average. So just interesting to see how that continued to grow. Seattle was fifth. Well, the Reign were fifth in the league. Angel City topped out at 9,105 on average, which is good to see. I know you'd like to hold some of these records, but it was good to see that this grow. Two of the top three teams in attendance were the two expansion teams in Angel City and San Diego. So that's good to see. I really enjoyed seeing that. Something on a little bit of a lower note, we looked to league news here on the 3rd. An investigation by U.S. Soccer found systemic abuse and misconduct in women's soccer, which made some ripples. There was the Yates report on October 5th. Portland Soccer, if you don't know, Portland, the Timbers and the Thorns are owned by the same sort of management, fired two executives. Portland parted ways with general manager Gavin Wilkinson, who's been I'll refrain language here, and we'll just say he's a really bad guy. Has been involved in a lot of the scandals surrounding the Thorns, and president of business Mike Goleb, after both were named in the report on abuse in women's soccer. More executives were outed across the league. Chicago Red Stars removed owner Arnim Whistler for covering up former coach Rory Dames' abuse. And, as much as I tell you and you, Bel, and, the people watching that I really love covering the Reign and enjoy watching women's soccer, it's really disheartening to see the way that these women are treated, just trying to play on the pro level, the struggles that they deal with already, let alone having to worry about just being able to pro, not having to deal with the dumb comments on the social media or not getting properly put on television. Like last year, the championship game was almost at 9 a.m. So stuff like that, just to deal with all of that is really tough. And then to look at it and see that, not only is this happening at the pro level, but also I talked about it being systemic happening, from youth. So just really tough to sort of look at. And obviously our solidarity is with those players, staff members who have had to deal with all of this, because our NWSL players are so strong to be able to deal with all they do as pro athletes, but also having to deal with this crap in the workplace, So I think, simply put, keeping anybody who enabled this sort of behavior, this abuse, these sort of actions, keeping them in their positions is wrong, and they need to be outed immediately. Just cannot have any sort of leftover, leftover, I guess I'll stick with that, from any of these scandals and abuse situations. They can't happen. I mean, they just need to be removed outright, and they can never see the light of day again. So I don't know if you've got anything else to put on that, but that's, just without really going into the reports, fully, It's just, Portland's had scandals, and it's not just Portland. I know North Carolina has had that, Chicago, nothing too much of a story wise, but when the last Reign coach before Laura Harvey left, there were some reports that it was because of um, some stuff he shouldn't have been doing as a human being, let alone a coach. So I'm sure we'll hear about that. Unfortunately, there's a E60 feature that came out about this, so I'll be planning on watching that to get the full report on that. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything you want to put into words on it.
Yeah, just that hopefully the other people that have experienced anything feel the support now and feel the willingness to speak up on it, because like you said, it has no place in the league. So I completely agree that you need to get rid of the people in the league that are continuing that behavior.
Yeah, it's just trying to make sure that this doesn't happen again, and that starts with getting rid of any of the leftovers from previous. So try to move on and wrap up with the sort of full attendance list that we talked about. So the top 5, Angel City at 19,105. And again, props to California for really showing out for their women's soccer teams. I wasn't sure how it would go with these expansion teams, but, and especially since they had to take some of our players in the expansion draft, angry fist wave. It's great to see that sort of environment. I know the players raved about it, and I just hope that it can continue to help this sport of women's soccer grow. Portland, as much as they're our rivals, they do a pretty solid job of supporting their team at 15,543 annually. San Diego, 8,729. Kansas City, 7,657. Kansas City is actually going to complete construction, I believe, next year on the first ever stadium built specifically and solely for a women's sports team. So I was in Kansas City this past year, not to root on Kansas City, but it was pretty boring when the Royals and the Chiefs were not playing. I'm sorry, it was. I don't want to start more fights and talk about the barbecue. But I wanted to visit the facility, but it was still being built. So good for KC. But anyway, digress. Before I get to talking about the Kansas City barbecue, the Reign sit an 11-win, 4-loss, 7-draw record, standing at first in the NWSL. Your NWSL Shield winners. And I'll say this: if you're bummed about the Sounders missing the playoffs, you're not a baseball person, so you don't care about the Mariners making the playoffs. You got to get out to the goddamn Reign game on the 23rd at Lumen Field. The tickets aren't out of the behind crazy. They're relatively cheap. You can go and support a club that's been winning and winning for a good amount of time. If you want to support women, let alone women in sports, you do it here and you put your money where your mouth is. At Lumen Field, October 23rd, as you can see on the screen with my nice cartoony slash between the two teams, it's either the Houston Dash or the Kansas City Current at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time on October 23rd. So if you don't care who they're playing regardless, October 23rd, Ticketmaster it right now. Tickets are still going. The whole lower bowl is opened. Get on that. Get on top of it. So, excuse me. We will wrap up here because there's no Seawolves. After a few weeks ago, they had some moves. They were quiet. The Dragons remain quiet too until I believe there might be a draft coming up in November. I haven't gotten an official word on that.
Ooh.
That'll be exciting. We'll look towards that then.